something big just shifted in Hollywood, and almost no one saw it coming because a major industry report has just raised serious questions about one of the most talked about partnerships in recent years. And this is not gossip or rumor this is coming from. Inside the industry itself, and what is being revealed could completely change how people see everything that has happened so far. And here is the twist: before this even went public, there were responses, concerns, and pushback, yet the story still came out, which means this is only the surface, and what comes next might be even bigger. So stay with me, because by the end of this you will see this story very differently in Hollywood. There are moments when everything shifts quietly at first, then all at once, and what just happened has insiders whispering that this might be one of those moments, because a major industry publication has released a report that is raising serious questions about the future of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the entertainment world. And this is not coming from gossip blogs or anonymous rumor pages. This is coming from a respected voice inside the industry, a publication known for its deep connections and careful reporting. And what makes this even more intense is that before the story went public, responses were already sent, legal concerns were raised, and yet the report still moved forward, suggesting a level of confidence that has caught attention across Hollywood. Now, as this unfolds, there are claims from multiple insiders describing what happens behind closed doors in meetings, moments the public never sees, conversations that shape million-dollar deals. And according to these sources, there are patterns that have led to growing frustration, confusion, and distance from key decision makers. But here is where it becomes even more gripping, because at the center of it all is a partnership that once looked unstoppable, a deal that promised to redefine storytelling with global attention and influence. Yet now the same partnership is being questioned, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quiet way Hollywood signals change. When interest fades, doors close slowly, and opportunities stop appearing. And as you follow this story, you begin to realize this is not about one moment or one report. This is about a series of events that may be connected pieces of a bigger picture. And the deeper you go, the more it feels like something important is shifting behind the scenes. And the biggest question is whether this is just a temporary setback or the start of something much bigger that no one can ignore. What makes this situation even more compelling is how it all began, because not long ago this partnership was seen as a bold new chapter, a streaming giant investing heavily in two globally recognized figures at a time when the world was paying attention. Expectations were high, the potential seemed limitless, and the narrative was powerful, a transition from royal life into independent storytelling with full creative control. But according to industry discussions, things did not unfold as smoothly as expected. There were moments where communication may not have aligned perfectly, instances where major announcements appeared unexpectedly, and decisions that seemed to shift timelines and priorities. And while none of this breaks agreements on paper, insiders suggest it created uncertainty behind the scenes, because in an industry built on timing, coordination, and trust, even small surprises can ripple into bigger concerns. And as different projects developed, from interviews to documentaries to publishing ventures, the challenge became maintaining a clear, unified direction. And here is where the tension builds, because when multiple high-value projects overlap, without alignment, it can dilute impact and create internal pressure. And that is exactly what some reports are hinting at, a growing sense that the original vision became harder to maintain. And while public releases continued, the energy behind them may not have matched the initial excitement. And as you follow these details, one thing becomes clear: this is not about a single decision, but about a pattern that slowly reshaped how the partnership was viewed internally. And the real suspense lies in understanding whether those early cracks were warning signs or simply part of a complex creative journey that is now being reinterpreted in hindsight. As the story moves forward, the focus shifts from projects to personal dynamics, and this is where attention intensifies because insiders describe meeting environments that were more complex than expected conversations where communication styles may have differed and moments where interactions were interpreted in different ways depending on perspective, and it is important to understand that these are reported observations, not confirmed facts, but what makes them stand out is the consistency across multiple sources describing similar experiences, and in any professional environment, repeated impressions tend to carry weight, especially when they come from individuals working in different teams and contexts, and alongside this there are also mentions of virtual meetings where participation patterns raised questions, again explained differently by those involved, but interpreted in various ways by observers, and this contrast between explanation and perception adds another layer of intrigue, because it highlights how easily misunderstandings can grow in high-pressure creative settings. And beyond the meetings, there is also discussion about project outcomes, including lifestyle ventures and content performance, where expectations and results may not have fully aligned. And while fluctuations are normal in entertainment, the scale of investment naturally increases scrutiny, and this is where the narrative becomes even more suspenseful, because it is no longer just about creative output. It becomes about momentum, reputation, and long-term viability, and in Hollywood, perception often shapes reality just as much as results do, and when perception begins to shift even slightly, it can influence decisions quietly behind the scenes before anything becomes visible to the public. Now, everything leads to this moment where the conversation is no longer isolated to one company or one project, but reflects a broader industry sentiment that is still evolving, because public statements remain supportive, partnerships are not officially ended, and nothing has been definitively confirmed as a final outcome, yet the tone of discussions, the language used by insiders, and the direction of recent developments suggest that something is changing, and this is where the loop closes back to the beginning, because what started as a single report now feels like part of a larger pattern, one that raises questions about sustainability, direction, and the future of a brand that once carried immense momentum. And the suspense lies in what happens next, because in entertainment, comebacks are always possible, reinvention is always an option, and narratives can shift just as quickly as they change, but it requires alignment, clarity, and trust, elements that are now being quietly debated. And as audiences continue to watch and industry professionals continue to observe, the story remains unfinished, leaving one powerful question hanging in the air: is this simply a challenging phase in a long journey, or the moment where everything begins to move in a different direction? As this story continues to unfold, it is important to approach it with balance, perspective, and awareness, because in the world of entertainment, narratives can evolve quickly, and reports often capture only one moment in a much larger journey. What we are seeing right now is not a final verdict, but a snapshot of an industry conversation that is still developing. Partnerships shift, strategies change, and even the most challenging periods can lead to reinvention, growth, and new opportunities. At the same time, this situation highlights how critical communication, alignment, and consistent delivery are in high-level collaborations, especially when expectations are as significant as they were in this case. The discussion surrounding these developments reflects not just on individuals, but on the broader reality of how the entertainment industry operates, where perception, performance, and relationships all play equally important roles. Moving forward, the real focus will be on what actions come next, how future projects are handled, and whether the narrative can shift in a more positive direction, because ultimately success in this space is not defined by one report or one phase, but by the ability to adapt, respond, and rebuild momentum over time. And as audiences continue to follow the story, one thing remains certain: the next chapter will be the one that truly defines the outcome. As this entire situation continues to unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that what we are witnessing is not just a single report or a short-lived wave of attention, but a deeper shift in how high-profile partnership is being viewed within the entertainment industry. And that distinction matters because in Hollywood, perception often carries as much weight as performance, and sometimes even more. What began as a powerful collaboration built on global recognition and massive expectations has gradually moved into a phase where questions are being asked more openly, not just by observers, but by those within the industry itself. And that change in tone is significant because it rarely happens without reason, yet it is also important to remember that reports like these represent perspectives and experiences rather than definitive conclusions, and in a business driven by creativity, relationships, and timing, there are always multiple sides to every story. At the same time, this moment highlights how complex large-scale entertainment deals can be, especially when they involve public figures transitioning into new roles and industries. The expectations placed on such partnerships are often enormous, and the pressure to deliver consistent, impactful results can be intense. And when those expectations are not fully met, or when communication and direction appear to shift, it can create uncertainty that grows over time rather than resolving quickly. And this is where the current narrative seems to be centered not around one specific event, but around a pattern that insiders believe has influenced how the partnership is perceived and managed behind the scenes. And whether those perceptions are fully accurate or not, the reality is that they are now part of the conversation shaping decisions moving forward. Another key element to consider is how quickly sentiment can evolve in the entertainment world. Opportunities can emerge rapidly, but they can also fade just as fast when confidence begins to shift. And while public statements often remain positive and supportive, the true direction of any partnership is usually reflected in actions rather than words. The types of projects that move forward, the level of investment that continues, and the overall momentum behind new initiatives all serve as indicators of where things are heading. And in this case, the signals appear mixed, which is why the situation feels so uncertain at this stage. There is no clear ending, yet only a series of developments that suggest change may already be in motion, even if it has not been formally acknowledged. Looking ahead, the most important factor will be how the next steps are handled, because the entertainment industry has always been a space where reinvention is possible. Many successful careers have gone through challenging periods before finding new direction and renewed momentum, and the same potential exists here if the right adjustments are made, whether that involves refining creative strategies, strengthening communication, or exploring entirely new opportunities. The ability to adapt will ultimately shape what comes next, and that is why this moment should be seen not only as a point of challenge, but also as a turning point that could lead to a different outcome depending on the choices that follow. In the end, the story remains open, and that is what makes it so compelling. This is not a finished narrative with a clear resolution, but an evolving situation that continues to develop with each new report, each new project, and each new decision. And for audiences watching from the outside, it serves as a reminder that success in entertainment is rarely a straight path. It is influenced by countless factors, both visible and unseen, and while headlines may capture attention, the real story is often found in what happens next. So as the industry continues to observe and as future moves begin to take shape, the focus will shift from what has been said to what is done, because ultimately that is what will determine how this chapter is remembered and what direction the story takes moving forward.